Welcome everyone to our workshop for December for Music Game Club. Our topic today will be adapting music games for all student levels. I'm Rebecca Trevelise, and our amazing Amanda Tara Matthews is also my wing woman here for our chat today and get started. Let me go over, we're basically doing four things today. So we will talk about why we should adapt games. We will go over the 12 key adaptation questions. We will do a live brainstorm, and then we'll talk about some opportunities that we have for y'all at the end of our chat today. All right, so to get even more from this free workshop, we have a workbook that will guide you as you learn to adapt music theory games for your studio. And if you're here today, you get this free workbook. So no one else is going to get this today. You have to be live and joining us. So thank you for coming today. So why adapt games? So that's a great question. So as a teacher, we often see challenges in our studios, and some of these are different skill levels between students, different emotional levels between students, lesson time limits. A 30-minute lesson goes pretty quick. So I understand that pain point. Keeping students engaged, that's another big thing that we always have as a challenge, right? So the benefits to learning how to adapt games is it personalizes the learning for the student, and it keeps them motivated, and it reduces lesson prep time. So you already know going into a lesson, oh, I know exactly how I'm going to adapt this for this student's needs. And it helps students learn faster. Games are such a great way to teach a new concept or review a concept that the student still needs review on. So the power of adapting games. One game doesn't fit all students, as we all know. And adaptable games correlates to flexible teaching. So it's exactly our topic for today. So game adaptation brainstorming session. All right, so here are the 12 questions, and I would love so Amanda, if you can keep an eye on the chat, if some of y'all can just answer how you would answer these questions, we would love your feedback, because we all have different studio pain points and different students that we engage with. So we love hearing from people who use games on a regular basis and how they adapt those games. So the first question is, how can I make this game easier for younger or less experienced students? So this is probably the number one thing that I am constantly doing with games is how can I make this easier? Especially if I'm teaching a concept for the very first time. It really needs to be pared down and very, very simple and easy. So I have a few things that I do, but I would love any input. If anyone just wants to speak out or write in the chat, I'm happy to hear what you have to say. So one of the first things I do is I write out the basic formulas or the answers if the game isn't already providing that. So for instance, in Crow chords, if I'm teaching new beginners who are brand new to chords, so I did this recently with one of my piano classes, their little hands cannot even physically play a chord yet, but I'm already planting those seeds of knowledge of what a chord even means. Like, what does that even look like? So I take my dry erase board and we are just making C, F, and G chords. So I'm writing C, E, and G. I'm just writing it out on the dry erase board. So they know that in order to make a C chord, they need a C, an E, and a G. So I'm really making it super basic for these younger students. So that's just one idea that I've utilized before for that specific game. Obviously, having dry erase boards and markers with the staff on them and also the keyboard already printed out. Paper keyboards are also great to have on hand just for reference. So sloth steps, we have the little game cards, but sometimes students just really need to physically mark from one note to the very next note to really start to understand, or even point from one note to the very next note on a larger surface. So those paper keyboards or those larger dry erase boards are really great to have just right next to you if you're sitting on the floor or a table. Also, another thing is just help your less experienced students and younger students, just help them find the correct answer. Just bridge that gap of they have no knowledge or limited knowledge, just go ahead and get them there quickly. So it's okay to give them the answer or help guide them through the answer quickly. And then as time goes on, as you play the games, every week your help should get less and less, right? So we should be slower to help them just so they become more independent in their learning. Another tip is to reduce the amount of cards in the game to just 1 to 3 selected elements. So for instance, if you're playing a game that has multiple different keys in it, just start with C major. Another example would be like in our listening lemurs game, we cover major intervals, perfect intervals, and minor intervals. That's too much for a beginner. So just start with the perfect intervals. Just remove all the other cards and just teach perfect intervals the first few times you play the game. Caribou Cadences is the game that we have released for December, which is super exciting. It is technically a more advanced game, right? So how in the world could you teach this game or use this game for younger students? So one way that you can is just eliminate the money, paying with the money. That will speed up your game process anyway. And as the younger students work their way around the board, whatever they land on, you help them identify just what it is. So if it is a 5-1, so say they land on a C major. So 5-1, so you would just guide them. So if C is 1, C, D, E, F, G. You basically just show them how to figure out what 5 is if you're in the key of C. And then if 1 is C, what is 1? C. Okay, so that's it. And they get the property, like they their caribou gets to claim that property with their caribou marker. So that's just a really fast, quick way to start planting those little seeds of knowledge with a much larger concept. But you're just kind of introducing it, just a little tease for those younger students who aren't quite ready for the full game version yet. So does anyone have any other ways that they make games easier for younger or less experienced students? Feel free to just share or put it in the chat.
Amy commented that in general, she makes games go shorter, go back and forth from game to playing for shorter attention spans or involving bodily movement.
Yes, that is a great tip. Yeah, short spurts for those very active students.
And then
Okay.
and then I shared that I use keyboard kittens to teach piano keys to my niece for the very first time. I used the activity sheet. It's like a blank keyboard, but we colored because on the keyboard kittens game, they're color coded. Like C is red. It's color coded for like the boom whackers and the bells and all those things. So we colored all the keys the same color as the letters on the board. And then I wrote the names of the keys on the piano, and then she just matched it. She picked a card, and then we matched it. I showed her how to find the 3 black keys and the 2 black keys, and we matched it. So that was much simpler. Keyboard Kittens is either keyboard or it has notes on the staff. So I obviously used the easier cards, but then I even simplified it from there.
Awesome. And for those of you who teach with solfege, we also have the solfege board also included for that game for Keyboard Kittens. So, all right. So question 2, how can I make this game more challenging for advanced students? So I have a couple of classes that I teach and it has some advanced students in it, and it also has some more beginner students. So it is a challenge for me to make sure that that advanced student just isn't just sitting down to play a beginner game, because the beginners need to play it, right? So I need to present a game that is also reviewing a concept that is important, and applicable for the older student or the more advanced student, but also meeting the needs of the younger student. So we keep this in mind when we design our games, and we always want to make sure that there is a way for multiple levels to play at the same time. One way that you can make it harder for those older students is make the concept an ear training game. So remove the visual element. So for instance, if they're doing like the icy intervals, can they play a fifth? Can they sing a fifth if they get a fifth, if they land on the iceberg that has the fifth on it? So think about how you can make it either a vocal or a instrument playing concept. Listening lemurs, caribou cadences, pumpkin pitch, those are three games right off the top of my head that I knew would be easy ways to translate to encouraging those more advanced students to do an extra step that the beginner students are not doing while they're playing the game. Anybody else that has ways that they make games harder for students? All right, let's move on. So question 3 is, how can I shorten this game to fit within a limited time frame? So the easiest way is whatever time you have left, even if it's literally 1 minute, that's how long you play the game. So, hey, kids will take it. My students, I'm like, oh, we ran out of time. We only have 1 minute left. Okay, I'm setting the timer. Let's go. So students will still enjoy it, even if it's 1 minute of play, and even if, even if they all just got one turn. So that actually happened to me last night. Since we're in recital prep season right now, our recital is December 14th. We got to the very end of the class period, and I only had 5 minutes left. And one of the students really, really, really wanted to play Kingdom Keys because she's seen the big poster board out and she just loves the scene. It is a harder concept for this beginner class. But I thought, you know what, they can find 4 matching cards. That's just going to be what we're going to do today. Is they're going to observe key signatures and they're just going to try to find the 4 matches. So that's it. We were able to do that in 5 minutes. So we each did 1 round of gameplay, 1 student won, and then we started the second round, but we had to stop. So you can also do where you just say, okay, we only have enough time for everyone to get 2 turns. And so the concept gets reviewed by each student twice. So that's also valuable. You can also just use the flashcards for just quick review. So if you have limited time, so say for instance, the Kingdom Keys, what I could have done last night instead of with my older crowd, what I could have done is taken the Kingdom Keys and just flipped through the cards, and they would just identify the major key signature or the relative minor. So sometimes you can just quickly, you don't have to lay out the board and get all the game pieces out. You can just use the cards associated with the game as a quick, like a pop quiz. Also, don't forget about the boom cards. So every game that we have, we also have a boom deck, and usually it's 4 decks bundled together. Some games are bigger, but that's also a great thing. I have a huge screen TV in my studio room, and so I just quickly plug in my phone, hit the boom deck, and it's nice and large, and I just call on the students so they each get a turn quickly in my piano classes. If you're doing one-on-one, you can just have an iPad and the student can quickly just rotate. They may not get through a full deck if you're limited on time, but even just 10 cards is going to help review that concept over and over. So in a very engaging way. Does anyone else have any ways that they kind of shorten, if you have really limited time, how they can squeeze in games?
I had a couple ideas. Well, I was typing while you're talking, so if this repeats it, I'm sorry. Using fewer cards helps shorten the gameplay, or changing the rules where it's like, hey, each card moves you forward double the spaces, can also shorten it. And then Heidi, she originally joined as Amy and her name was wrong. So her name's Heidi. Anyway, she had an idea for number 2, making them harder. For older students, she has students name like the number of sharps and flats in the major or minor key instead of just the note name.
Nice. Yes, those are great. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on to question number 4. How can I extend or add rounds to make this game longer for students who want more practice? So I have a few students. I'm actually one of those students. Like, I love playing games, so I just never want it to end. I just want to keep doing it, even if it's the game is over and we move on, but it's like the same concept still being reviewed. That's very exciting for me. So most of our games have cards that can be utilized or played on the piano or sung. Um, and you can also use the solfege. So that's one way you can finish the game and then just keep doing the concept at the piano. You could also make it a tournament style. So this is perfect for those of you who have piano parties or camp days for your students. So think about this in the summer, how you can bundle your games together and you can have tournament styles. So 2 students could play against each other, and say you had 10 students and now you have 5 brackets, right? So the winners from those move on and eventually you have a champion. And what you can do is for those students who have fallen out of a bracket, they can still team up with somebody and be their support system. And if the person playing needs to phone a friend, those other players will be available for that. So that's a fun way to kind of extend or add rounds for those of you who have extra time. Usually that's not the case, but for those camp days or those piano parties, it's really nice to be able to really expand your options. Does anybody else have any ideas for extending or adding rounds to make the game longer? All right, so question number 5, what visual or tactile aids like cards, tokens, or music notation can I add to make the game more engaging? All right, so for me, so younger students, my daughter is 9, but she still really loves baby dolls and stuffed animals and stickers. So usually 9-year-olds are kind of beyond that usually, but definitely the younger students love stuffed animals and stickers. So if you have something similar in nature to the theme of the game, bring those out. So I have this adorable, I have a couple of pictures of my daughter playing four foxes, and she just had to go get her fox from her room to play the game. So if you just be creative, think about what you have at your house or what you have in the studio that kind of correlates to the game. Like, do you have any flamingos laying around? Like, bring those out when you play flamingo flats. Students just love the correlation, even if it's literally just a sticker or a stuffed animal. Stacking snowmen. So I have this time of year, those are easy to find, but I have this really cute snowman that I always bring out that the students can pose with if they're the winner. So those are just some fun ways. Obviously, I did mention earlier having a dry erase board, having paper keyboards, or even just a really small kind of play keyboard that's not, you wouldn't want a student to practice or perform on it, but it's nice to have those smaller options available just to use as like a visual guide. Anybody else have things that they like to do to help their students? Like for the camping, this visual on this slide here is the visual from or the art from our Rocky Rhythms game. And I have which is a camping themed game. And I have a whole series of camping stickers that I got at Target, like in their dollar section, like years ago. And so I always bring that sticker pack out for my younger students. They really enjoy that.
Heidi says, I love the idea of having a visual aid. Sometimes a prop engages their interest right away when they see it when they come to lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. If they see a flamingo or a shrimp on your piano, they know something's up.
And then this is
Okay.
backing up a little bit, but we missed it.
Oh,
Deborah
yeah.
said, for shortening games, I often, in a pinch, just tell the student whoever gets the furthest to the finish before the time is up for the lesson wins.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Thank you. All right, so question number 6, what adjustments can I make to encourage teamwork or collaboration between players? Okay, so I got this idea just yesterday or 2 days ago from one of our music game club members. I don't know if she's on this call right now. But this is what she said she did, because we asked her specifically, hey, how are you managing being in a large classroom and utilizing the large game board and playing the game with such a large number of students? And she breaks the class into small groups of like 3 to 6 students, and they work together as a team. So when it's your team's turn, one student gets to go up to the board and answer the question correctly and move the marker. But if they need help, they can call on one of their teammates to help them. So I loved that. I think she also uses, she has a magnetic dry erase board, it sounds like, and she uses the poster size game board so that the whole class can see it, and then has magnets where she moves the game pieces around. So I had not thought of that before. So that was really exciting for me to hear. And I think I might try that in my studio. Most of our games do allow for up to 8 players at a time, so that can be very flexible and accommodating for a larger number of students, especially if you print those large poster, or is it the A3 size? That's the larger size for our international friends. You can get a lot of students around the board or somehow display it up on your wall. Does anybody else have, we talked about kind of the bracket, the championship kind of bracket style game. How else? Oh, there's another way that I just thought of that I use when you have mixed levels playing at the same time. Some of our games have 2 different levels, and sometimes within those levels are 2 different levels. So say a level 2 card is a harder card, but within that we've color coded it to make it where they are easier on the staff and harder on the staff, for instance. Sometimes you can ask a more advanced student to help a younger student. Can you help them? Like, what can you, this is like a life skill, right? Game strategy is teaching students how to guide somebody else to the answer without just blurting out the answer, right? So asking other students to help another student is a great thing to encourage teamwork and collaboration between players. So I don't know if any of y'all have any other ideas that you've used before or that your students really like to do. All right, let's see. Let's move on to question 7. How can I tie this game to a specific music concept or skill they're learning in their repertoire? So this is kind of like the peak, the pinnacle of, why we teach music theory. Why, right? We always want it to be relatable and understandable to our students directly to the music that they're learning or they will learn someday, right? And then they have those aha moments when they're like, oh, I remember learning about chords when I was 5, but I couldn't play a chord yet. And now that I'm 8, I'm learning about chords and I'm playing chords, and now I have all that knowledge base to pull from. So yeah, it's always a great idea to turn it back to the repertoire. So one of my, y'all may have seen me post, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, you may have seen me post a video last night of me playing Deck the Halls for Two by Stacey Farian with one of my group piano class students. We're prepping for the recital. And she recently learned about cadences by playing caribou cadences. So we played it in November. I was testing out the game with my students, and she had no clue. The whole class had never heard of cadences. Like it was a brand new concept to them. So we've played that game 3 times now. So she's really starting to catch on to what cadences are. She's already really great with her key signature. She's played in multiple different keys. She quickly caught on what a cadence was. So now the next time we play the game, I will have her identify in Deck the Halls for Two, the duet. I'll have her mark through her music, where are all the authentic cadences? So now she has that terminology. She understands what that looks like, what that means. So that's one way to directly connect it back. Kingdom keys, or this would also work for Froggy Fifths, which is another key signature game. When a student wins, have them check to see if the key signature that they won is a key signature that they have played before. Or also when a game is finished, you can have just all of your students make a list of the keys that they have played pieces in. Really kind of brings awareness. I know when I was younger, I just blasted straight to the music. I never even paid attention to the time signature or the key signature. That was just, I was just like, boom, boom, boom. I just want to play the notes. So I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger because I never paid attention to the key signature or the time signature. So this will help students be a little more aware, like, oh, there are things going on in my music. I need to be paying more attention. Interval icebergs is another example. You can have students identify all the harmonic intervals in one of their pieces after playing the game. So after playing the boom version or playing the printed game board version, that's a quick, easy way for them to go through their music and just identify all of their harmonic intervals. They should be pretty quick at it after playing the game. All right. Anybody else before I move on that has a way, and it doesn't need to be music game club games. There could be other, other games that you use that tie directly into your curriculum you use or your students' repertoire. Does anyone have any favorites out there that they like to go, oh, I always play this game at this point because this is a concept being taught?
I played Counting Caterpillars just because you can build measures. I'm trying to get the link up for y'all, but I used it to teach time signatures for the very first time. And these were like second lesson students, they're just learning the piano keys. They are not looking at music yet, but I was kind of like helping them figure out the math. Like, oh, 2/4 is 2 quarter notes, even though they don't know what quarter notes are or anything like that. And then 3/4, how many do you think that is? And then whenever they see the music, they instantly recognize, oh, hey, I've seen this before. So that's one of the ones that I've used.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so let's move on to question number 8. What rules could I add or change to keep the game fresh for students who have played it before? Any fun twists? So I actually love doing this with games because music theory is so important. Students need to be doing it weekly, and they really need to be doing it in the lesson with me because I can catch when a concept really isn't mastered yet. So one of the things I love about the Music Game Club games is we provide 4 alternative gameplays for each game if you're a member. So you have 5 ways to play the game when you purchase the game as a member. So we've already done a lot of that work for you. The favorite ways my students enjoy is if we take the cards and they sort the cards. So say, for instance, they take the Rocky Rhythm cards and I give them a big pile of cards. So say this is just one student in a private lesson. I give them the big pile of cards and I say, go, and I'm timing them. And they are sorting the cards. To make it harder, when they're sorting, every time they lay down a card, they need to say the name of the rest or the note and how many beats it gets. For the most purest beginner, so say a 4-year-old's doing this, you would just have them sort just by sight. So they're just starting to clue in like, oh, that rest is hanging differently than this other rest, so I need to sort it properly. And another example would be in salamander scales. When students complete a scale during the game, you need to give them a starting pitch on the piano and they need to play that scale correctly. Bonus points if they get the fingering right, of course. And then my ultimate favorite, studio favorite, is the ultimate Shrimp Sharps and Flamingo Flats, those game boards coming together to make the ultimate battle. Like that, just when my students realize that that can be done, they're just, I can't believe it that that's a thing. So that's a fun twist to that game, is bringing the sharps and the flats and all the key signatures, the sight reading, and all the things that go on behind the scenes with that game is so valuable, but does extend kind of that learning process. So does anyone have any other games that they like to change it up or change the rules?
I'll say I just sometimes use just flashcards and just do different games with flashcards, which I've posted a lot of ideas on these on social media and stuff, whether it's using neighborhood notes flashcards or just any flashcards you have. Sometimes it's, mixing up 5 cards and putting them on different orders on the piano and then they play a little melody, or doing like a memory match. Now, those flashcards, you have to have them where they don't have the answers on the back. But so yeah, so there's things like that is keeps even just reviewing, just like playing flashcards, not even talking about games, but keeps playing flashcards interesting.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, we've got another message. Heidi says her students like slapjack with interval or note game cards, have them look for a certain one and race to slap it in group lessons. That's a really fun one. Rhythm Reef, right, is like our slapjack type of game. Well, it's more like Egyptian War, which is kind of a glorified slapjack. And I think that's like a student favorite because that interactive slapjack is so much fun.
Yeah, it is. The anticipation building up to whoever will finally get that big pile of cards, because it keeps shifting from student to student, is so fun. Okay, let's move on to question 9. So how can I adapt this game to work for one student? So some of you may, like myself, have private lesson students and also group piano students. I find that a lot of games are initially designed for just one-on-one players. But if it's just one student learning with no one else, so say they take the game home and they need to work on that, that I would say play the game, kind of get through the game with them at least one time before they take it home or use it just by themselves. The cool thing about boom cards is it's self-correcting. So a student can play through a deck by themselves and it alerts them if they get the wrong answer in a very gentle way. It just goes, whoops. So it's not like condescending or terrifying. So that is one way. Our games are developed so that you can play one-on-one. So a teacher and a student can play together, as well as say like 8 students can play all at the same time, typically on different levels. So we try to make sure that everyone's needs are being met. And if we see that, oh, this is a harder concept, we need to make sure that there are some easier concepts and easier gameplays available. We try to make those easy to find when you purchase our game. So here's another option. If there is a collaboration or a team element involved, pair up your student and work from both sides of the game board or with both game markers to complete the game. So if you're just with your student and you're not competing against your student, you're just having them practice playing both sides of the game, if that makes sense. So really you're just kind of, they get to answer every single question. You're just guiding them through. So if you're, say for instance, you're playing sloth steps and you have two markers on the board, you're just working the game board with them. And then it can be kind of a challenge like, I wonder which sloth will actually make it out first. So that can be a fun way to it's just basic review. You're just taking the concept and learning it with them. So remember that the goal is always to absorb music theory knowledge so that you're just helping them do that while facilitating gameplay and strategy with them. One of the most fun things I enjoy playing games, but I really enjoy teaching game strategy to my students. So having that one-on-one time with them, or even in a group setting, teaching them strategies of, so for instance, in Caribou Cadences, there are the half cadences, which can have two different price points, but a student may not clue in on that. So you as the teacher can help guide them through that process. Like, well, do you really want to pay $8 for property, or what if you just had to pay $3? So depending on the money that they use to pay for the cadence, so that game strategy is really fun. How else have y'all adapted games just for one student? I know that we have one game. I'm blanking on the name. It's the lion game, the Dynamic Den. Dynamic Den can easily be played by one student because it's just one game board and they're laying the lions out for the dynamics. And if there's a hyena attack, obviously if the fortissimo, if the daddy lion isn't on the game board, then the pack gets wiped out and they've got to start again. So that's one easy game that's already designed that way. Do y'all have any other games or games you like to play where just one student can play? Right, let's move on. Question number 10. How can I adapt this game for group lessons? So yeah, like I've said before, I teach private and I teach group. So I'm always looking for games that can do both. So do y'all have any games out there that you have where it was designed for just one-on-one play, but you've edited and adapted it into making it a larger game so that group classes can play it? Most of our games have an average of 8 players. Some of them are 6, a few of them are 4, and one of them is 10, or a couple of them are 10. So you can, I love that there's that flexibility. If you have a game that has been designed for one player or one-on-one play, consider making teams and then take turns, or have 2 teams play against each other and the players just rotate through on those teams when it's their turn. So that's how I would handle that. If you have a game that is solely designed for just 2 players, you're going to have to utilize that team element in your classroom. All right, question 11. How can I change the goals for sensitive students? So do any of y'all have sensitive students in your studio? Like students who, so I see sensitive students on both extremes. I see the students who literally have and need to win. And if they do not win, they will break down. Like if they are even halfway through the game and they feel like they're going to lose, they're already starting to struggle emotionally. So I see that, and then I see the other extreme, which they're just super sensitive students. Like they're just very shy. They're not aggressive. They're hesitant for a myriad of reasons, right? And so drawing that student out and making them more confident. And yes, you have this knowledge. You can answer out loud. You can move your marker, just kind of like encouraging them. And then that life skill of the student who always needs to win or always wants to win, just kind of prepping them through the game. Hey, we're going to celebrate when everyone's done. Okay. Our goal here is to learn about whatever the topic is. Say it's half steps and whole steps or minor scales. Our goal today is to learn this. So just kind of like using your language to prep them, like somebody will win, but we're all winning today, right? We are all learning. This is the point of the game. So sometimes also those younger students need to have that reinforced so that when everyone gets to the finish line, even if we're waiting for someone to get there, we're all going to celebrate at the end. So the favorite way I love doing this is I make I'm making a commentary about, oh, look at this starfish, they're ahead, and oh, this one got a crab attack, so it has to go back. I wonder what color's going to get to the end first. And I make it about the starfish and about the colors and about the animals. I'm not saying, oh, Alice's starfish is almost going to win, or Alice is about to win. I make it just about the animals and the colors and just about what's happening on the game board, and not individualize it to the student. That is very helpful. And then I encourage them to just wait at the finish, wait for the blue starfish. They've got to get, okay, they're almost there. Oh, now we can have a party. Let's have a dance party. Let's, celebrate. And everyone hold up the game board. Everyone have a success poster. Let's take a picture. For my competitive students who are totally fine being very competitive and knowing that one person will win, we go all out in those, like, it is cutthroat. It is totally fine. But I understand the maturity of the students. And so I handle those classes and that type of game environment differently than I do when there are sensitive students present. Another thing that I also remind students is, just because you are the leader most of the way through the game does not mean that you will win at the end. There are many times where I've been knocked back as a teacher, and I make a point to tell my students, look at this, I am now back at the start again, or I am now, 10 spaces behind everybody. But you know what? I'm gonna have a good attitude, and there's a chance that I can still win. So I plant those seeds of positivity so those students can then hopefully use that language and turn around and do the same thing for another friend or a teammate later on down the road in their life. They have that example of just being a positive person, even when you're like, oh man. There's always a chance. Sometimes that tortoise does win the race. Another way that you can handle sensitive students is you can just remove all of the negative cards in the game. So for instance, starfish staff, there are crab attacks, there are sea turtle attacks. There's also a positive card where the student gets a double turn. Sometimes I'll also take those out just because no one's getting a double turn. Everyone's just getting one turn, and whatever it ends up being. And we all get to the end and we all celebrate learning lines and space notes. The icons in Keyboard Kittens, we've got like some food, we've got like a couple of cat toys, we've got some 2 black keys and 3 black keys. So those are specialty cards. So obviously if someone's about to get to the basket and about to be done with the game and they pull one of those cards, I can't remember which one's the closest. It might be the fishbone, I think, is the closest one to the start, and they have to go all the way back to the start. So maybe the first time you play the game, if you know they're sensitive students, or maybe you just don't know your students yet. Maybe the first time you play the game, you just play the game, just the most basic part of the game, and those specialty cards are pulled out, and then put them back in. It announce to the students the second time you play it, okay, we're going to have an extra special version of this game today. We are adding in the specialty cards. So it's going to, some students may have to backtrack a little bit and just kind of let them know ahead of time. There are some extra challenges in play. Anybody else have any ideas with sensitive students and playing games? It's such a great life skill, I think, like learning game strategy and learning how to manage our emotions when things don't go as expected. It's such a great life skill. Plus, we're learning music theory while we're doing this, so.
Not for this question, but for question 10 about playing group games with smaller games. Heidi says that she uses game cards for one-on-one games and uses it with the game Split Second that she found at the thrift store. So students race to write the correct answer on their paddles. She uses that for group lessons.
Ooh, that's fun. I like that. All right, so question number 12, how can I bring this game to the instrument for hands-on application? So we touched on this just a little bit. Lots of options to play the music or concept off of the cards. So for instance, our Magpie Melodies game, that's a huge game with tons of rhythm, tons of measures of melodies. All of those melodies, they're all color coordinated and they actually do make a song. So that's a great way. If you have a lot of time in your class, or if you're doing a camp or a piano party, to have the challenge for the student to correctly place all of the measures in the correct order and then play it on the piano. Also, a lot of game cards can be utilized at the piano, like Amanda just said, or you can take that same rhythm and move it around so they can start learning how to improvise. Like if you give them the very beginning of Jingle Bells, for instance. So you have E, 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 G, C, D, E. Okay, so they play that once and then place their hand, say you put their hand, their third finger on A flat. Can they play Jingle Bells in that position? They might get it, that it might be a little challenging at first. Hopefully they can hear, oh, something's off. Like one of my fingers isn't in the right spot, right? So learning how to improvise and move around the piano and take the knowledge to the piano or maybe back into their music. Those are such great ways to just reinforce learning a music theory concept and then making it applicable. So does anybody else have any ways that they do hands-on application at the instrument, which I think most of us are piano teachers here, but there might be some voice teachers or flute or violin teachers. I know Amanda also is a violin teacher. So yeah, just making songs with the melody cards, taking the melodies and having them clap the rhythm is also another way. Sight reading, taking cards if there's a key signature involved and saying how many notes are actually affected by the key signature on this measure. Can you play it? Can you play it correctly? All right. So I've kind of hinted, I don't know if any of y'all have printed and played Caribou Cadences yet. This is our December game and it's just super exciting. I've been wanting to release a Monopoly style game for a long time now, and we finally did it with Caribou Cadences. This is a big theory concept that is so important for students. I love our boom decks because it brings that ear training component in. So let me see. So yeah, the original gameplay covers learning half, deceptive, plagal, and authentic cadences. So in the original version of the game, like the full-length version, the player must pay with the correct chords to purchase a slot. So for instance, if they land on C major authentic, which would be 5-1, they need to have a G major dollar bill and a C major dollar bill. So there's different values written on the actual bills that they play with, including that it's a G major and a C major bill. This game requires students to know Roman numerals and matching the cards. So I love teaching Roman numerals to students. I'm always super excited when they look and they're like, I have no idea what this is. I get super excited because most kids these days, I don't think they are introduced to Roman numerals until, is it third grade? Can anybody help me out on this? What have y'all, I've noticed around third grade is when they're starting to kind of get an idea about Roman numerals in their math class at school. So if I get a second grader or a first grader and it's a game that involves any kind of Roman numerals, I'm always super excited too. I don't know why I nerd out about Roman numerals, but I think they're super exciting. Anyway, and then matching the chords. So alternative gameplays for Caribou Cadences. So again, like if we take the 12 adaptation questions that we just used and think about, okay, think about your studio and the students in your studio and their specific needs and where they are at in their music journey and where they're at in their music theory journey. Because sometimes the music theory and the music journey, you know, it can get lopsided. I have several students that are heavy on music theory. They love games. They love doing music theory workbooks and worksheets and quizzes and tests. But their playing level is, you know, lower comparatively to their music theory knowledge. And then I have also the opposite, where their music theory knowledge is lower than what their playing level is. So how can we make this easier? How could we play with just one student? How can we play this game in 5 minutes? How can we bring this game to the piano? All right, so I briefly mentioned earlier the student who's playing Deck the Halls for Two with me in the recital coming up. I will have her identify in her music the authentic cadences that she has. Which game in your studio can you adapt today? So hopefully we've gotten the wheels turning, and hopefully you have some games that are already printed and ready to go, maybe that you've even played before, but now you're realizing, oh, I could also do this with the game, or I could have a piano party and have a group of students play it at the same time in this way. Or I can make it easier, I can make it harder. Two students at different levels can now play at the same time. I'm a big fan of that, having a harder and an easier level student play at the same time. It's very valuable, I think, for the younger student to see the older student's level. So a lot of times they will have completely different sets of cards. And so that younger student's looking at their card going, oh my goodness, how are you even like understanding what that means? So it kind of gives them a taste of, you know, maturity, and oh, when I get older, I'll be at that level. So we will be opening our doors soon at Music Game Club. Super excited. At the end of this month, we will open our doors, and this only happens twice a year, guys. So make sure you don't miss out, because it's a short window that we open for new members and then we close again. So I want y'all to make sure that you get all the benefits of being a member. You get to pick the game that you need for your students. So we do release a game every single month. That doesn't mean that you need that game. So if you're a member, you just pick whatever you need from our shop. It can be a boom deck, it can be a printable game. So whatever you need. So you may not need Caribou Cadences if you're a member this month, but that's okay. You can pick whatever you need. Our games can be played one-on-one, and they can be played in groups. You get all the game board, the cards, and the tokens needed to play. We have video tutorials and bonus videos for alternative gameplays. And then, of course, we have our beautiful success poster, which is such a great social media promotional thing for you. And if you're not on social media, it's just great to show the parent, share with the parent, email the parent a little clip of y'all playing the game, and then the student holding the poster and celebrating. Like, it's a great memory. I've seen actually a couple of those appear on my students' Christmas cards where they're bragging about their, you know, Susie is still, you know, she's in her 5th year of playing the piano, and it's nice to see those kind of year achievements that parents are proud of. So what teachers say about the game adaptation bonus videos? So here are just a few testimonials from teachers that have been members and that have used our games. So Liz says, I love the video tutorials and have created a spreadsheet with each game, tutorial, and the alternate gameplay so I can find them and refresh my memory when I'm fuzzy on the details of the gameplay. Keep the videos coming, please. Music Game Club has been one of my favorite parts of teaching this year. So thank you so much for that testimonial. Here's another one from Laura. The videos that are provided with all these different ideas for playing are fantastic and so helpful, so you feel like you're getting your money's worth. I have quite a collection of piano games from other websites, but I really like that the subject matter of the Music Game Club games is broad and are about more than just notes on the staff, like chord qualities and interval ear training. My students and I both love the animal themes too. So we would love to see you join us if you're not a member. I think some of you on this call right now or in the workshop right now are already members. But just to review, so we have a Music Game Club Basic membership, and you get to choose how frequent you want to pay for that membership. So do you want the membership to run every month, or do you just want it to run every quarter? Do you want it to just run every 3 months? Then you would just get your game every 3 months. You would pick the game of your choice. You can also choose the annual option, which if you really like a deal, that's the best deal because you get 12 games but you're paying for fewer games. So 1 token can be redeemed for any printable game or Boom card bundle of your choice. So you have full freedom in choosing exactly what you need. We also have the Pro membership. My slide is stuck right now. But we have the Pro membership, which would give you double everything. So you would, again, choose the frequency. Do you want, most of the people who are choosing the Pro membership want the printable and the Boom deck version, because they're utilizing all aspects of playing the game. The digital is so nice because students can play at home easily, and you can do 1-minute games really quick. The printable is you have to print it and manage the storage of that. So the nice thing about Pro is you can also choose whether you want it to run monthly, quarterly, or annually. And you get to choose any 2 games, and it could be 2 printable games. It doesn't have to be printable and Boom. You literally can just pick whatever 2 you want. It could be 2 Boom decks. It could be 2 different games. It doesn't need to be matching in any way. So you also save money by getting the Pro membership. So it's a 25% less than if you bought 2 games individually. All right, so you might be wondering, well, is Music Game Club membership, is that like a good option for me? So these are the types of teachers that would be good candidates for a Music Game Club membership. So if you're just starting out, highly recommend. I wish this resource were around when I started. Oh my goodness. I would have had so much fun, and my approach to student learning would have my trajectory would have just looked completely different in my approach to music theory. If you have taught for years, this is such a great way to really infuse joy and laughter in your studio. I've been teaching for a really long time. Sitting down on the floor at a table and laughing and playing a game while teaching a music theory concept, there's a lot of connection points that are going to be made with you and your student at that time. And it's so valuable, not only in the music theory sense, but also just the connection point that you're making. So if you have little theory knowledge, you're in good hands with Music Game Club. We know that some of the teachers that are just starting out, or maybe if you have been teaching for a long time, you've just never had students that were at a more advanced level, or you just never had students that were at, say, grade level for music theory testing. If you have little theory knowledge, we are always here to help. We try to equip and make the gameplay and the instructions very thorough. A lot of times we will have a guide that the teacher can print for her reference or for the student's reference. And it really kind of walks you through, like, this is the correct answer. If this is what you see, then this is the correct answer. So it really kind of takes the mystery out of how do I teach this and what is the correct answer. So if you have very little theory knowledge, we've got you covered. Also, if you have college level theory knowledge, you should be super excited about our games, because Amanda and I mean, the sky's the limit. All music theory concepts need to be taught. And if you have a game to reinforce it, and I love that our games are not babyish. Harder concepts are hard to teach to a student if the graphics are clip art or babyish in any way. So we make sure that none of our games, really even our most beginner games, are not childish or juvenile in any way. An older beginner can play our games, and they're not going to feel like, oh, this is a baby game, or this is a game that's, I shouldn't be playing this. I'm too old for this. So yeah, if you have college level theory knowledge, you should be excited about our games, because we have some really amazing, important concepts that are advanced. So it just provides a great resource to reinforce in your studio. If you teach one-on-one music lessons, if you teach group music lessons, I teach both. And so we make sure that our games are relevant to both styles of teaching. And like I said before, if you enjoy high quality music theory games, you're going to love Music Game Club. We're very thorough in everything that we provide, and the visual element and the gameplay element is super important to us. And do you love helping students have fun while learning? Like, if you ask a student, would you rather play a game or would you rather take a test? They'd probably rather play a game. And you know what? That concept's going to be learned by the end of the game. They would ace the test if it's over that concept. So pretty confident about that. We're only open twice a year. I said that earlier, but at the end of this year is when we open. So don't miss out. I know it's a busy time of year for everyone. We've got recitals, we've got Christmas, we've got family coming in from out of town. So this is the time to plan for next year. So take your Christmas break. Don't forget about Music Game Club. We would love to have you. These are just some amazing graphics of all. You can see the game board represented, the success poster, and just one page of our instructions that we have. So you can just kind of get a quick glance of all the art that is available for each game. And then the 5-day challenge. I don't know, Amanda, did you want to jump in and talk about this, or does anyone have any questions before we just wrap up here?
I'll talk about the 5-day challenge while you ask your questions. I know someone asked about Boom, so I'm in the chat answering questions like that.
okay.
And I gave some links with this. But so the 5-day challenge is, if you're not sure, like, is Music Game Club for me? One of the best things about the challenge is, I might be going out of order, but you'll get a printable game and a Boom card set. And basically, we walk you through. So this is talking about day one. It's basically the game prep checklist. Day two is planning games, helping you like brainstorm when should you play games with your students. Are you going to plan it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? It helps you basically to break that down. Day three is game storage. It's basically tips and tricks to help you set up your game studio. So if you've never done games, or you're like, I'm not sure that I have room in my studio for that, we've got some space saving ideas and just different things to help you, because I think in every email I quote James Clear from Atomic Habits. I love that book. If you've never read it, by the way, totally read Atomic Habits. But he talks about making things accessible. Building a new habit is much easier if it's right there and you could do it. So keeping games accessible, that's kind of what the game storage is all about. Day four is game adaptation. So like this workshop was kind of precursor to that. So the 12 questions you get in your free workbook are also in here, but we also have more tips and ideas to go with that. So yeah, this workshop kind of was precursor to that. And then day five is all about digital games, because a lot of people have never done Boom cards before and they're like, what are these? Which the easy explanation is, it's a digital flashcard. But in that day, I will teach you how to set up your Boom Learning account. But we don't own Boom Learning. It's actually a public school platform, and a lot of music teachers have adapted to it because it works so well. And there's nothing like that for music teachers. So we're not the only ones on Boom Learning. There's a lot of other people on Boom Learning. But so we teach you how to set up your Boom Learning account, how, if you get a Boom deck away from Boom Learning, like if you buy it from our shop, how you can download it, or if you get a free one. So we basically walk you through everything you need to know to get set up with Boom Learning, which I highly recommend, because Boom cards kind of saved my teaching one year when I had a really bad health year and it was like I had no energy for anything. And I could teach really important theory concepts with Boom cards. It was so easy for me, and it was instant correction for the students. So they actually learned a lot doing the Boom cards, and it was so less stressful for me. So anyway, so what you'll get one printable game. We have 5 game choices for you. I do not remember off the top of my head which ones they are, but they're either our top favorite for our students, or I think we have at least one more advanced concept, I think. So that way, whichever level your students are, you can grab a game that is appropriate for them. We have a boom card set, which is usually 4 decks, sometimes 5 decks. We have a 50-page workbook, and then we'll have tutorial videos to walk you through every step you need. So the value of all of that is like $47 around. We've got it listed for $14.99. However, you can go to the next slide.
Oh,
For today, like the next 24 hours, we'll let y'all access it for $5. I will say the challenge starts on, I think, December 30th. So you're signing up early bird. We're not going to send you the first day challenge until December 30th, but it's your like special way in. You do have to use the coupon 5day45. It is in your workbook, your free workbook download. On the last page, there's a link to it. There's a QR code to it, or you just go to musicgameclub.com/shop and find it there. But that coupon's only good for 24 hours. If you decide on Monday, I really like the sound of that workshop, well, then it's $15. So there's kind of a steal. It's a 50-page workbook, which in and of itself is worth way more than $5, because that workbook is something that you can take and you can reuse over and over and over, or just print the templates or the schedules or whatever that you need every week or every month. And so I tried to create the workbook in a way that was as usable as possible. So that way you're going into 2025 and you're fully equipped. So that's the whole plan for the 5-day challenge. Equip your studio with music games is to basically set you up for success for playing games, because it's really easy to say, oh, this is a really good idea, I want to, and then weeks and weeks go on and you're like, I'm feeling in this little crunchy area where it's like my students are a little bit bored and I just feel like I'm drilling things into them, and we just need a little bit of levity to our lessons. So wherever you stand with music games, even if you've done music games before, you want to get back into it, or maybe you just want to explore more ideas and options, I think this workshop would be helpful for you. And
so I wanted to jump in and let y'all know the 5 games that you have to choose from are Rhythm Reef, Starfish Staff, Keyboard Kittens, Crow Chords, and Sloth Steps. So those are the five game options that you have to choose from. So does anybody have any questions about what we talked about today, or your options moving forward as a member, or joining the 5-day challenge? I'm super excited that y'all are interested in playing games with your students and making 2025 a very rewarding, enjoyable experience, and higher level of learning, just super fun. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate that y'all took the time today, and we wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we hope to see you soon at the end of the month. Bye.
oh, wait, just a second. Karen had a question about the challenge. Will there be a replay for the challenge? So the 5-day challenge it starts on December 30th. And basically we'll send an email for 5 days. When you have that email, if you can't get to it right away, you have that email. You'll have everything you need. So let's say you get it that week and you're like, oh, well, this is a really bad week, but next week would be better. Well, you have those emails. So everything we send you in the challenge, you have and you keep. So if we do any videos, it's going to be videos you can watch anytime that you need to. So even though we're doing it for these 5 days, it actually is kind of self-paced.
Good question. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, Heidi. She says, thank you. I love so many of the ideas that you shared.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're all ears. We've already planned out the whole year for 2025 for our games, but we are always interested in what is a game that your students love to play, or a game style, like Monopoly style, for instance, or Slapjack, for instance, or what is a music theory concept that you really need a game for? And I love challenges like that, so please bring them my way. So thank you all again for being here. we will see you again, hopefully at the end of this month. And then our next chat will be the first Friday in January. So we'll definitely see you again then. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.